This is kind of the beach that I grew up in. Not that I didn't grow up on the Sunshine Coast, I grew up in Brisbane. But we were fortunate enough, my dad was a builder and he built a holiday house only a couple of 100 metres from here. And so after surfing around here for 20 years, you get to know people pretty well. And most of them find out at some stage or other that I'm a minister, and you get different reactions to that. I mean, the only reason I'm here is because of friends that I've made in the surf over the years. People like Jeff and Massa, they're the ones that saved my life.
Absolutely. Neil Street is known as the never-ending story because you start telling a story, a wave comes and you've got to go for it, paddle back out and you start to finish a story. It can take about 4 or 5 waves to finish the one story.
I've been able to visit some of those people in hospitals. I've been able to pray for people. I've been able to give them Bibles. I've had some great conversations with people, both in and out of the water. It's an opportunity for me to interact with people who don't normally, a lot of them would never go into a church. Well, it was a Friday. It was the 15th of January. And Friday being my day off, I had arranged to go for a surf with Peter Yates and Rob Flood. A very similar day to this. It was a beautiful day. The surf was great.
We went a bit deeper into the break, and he said that guy over there, I think his name was Al or John. One of the two guys had some pretty major surgeries and major operations, and he was telling me how he'd had a chance to talk to him. I guess he was witnessing to him, and that's one of the reasons why Tom surfs Neil Street, is because he sees this as sort of part of his church outreach, and he said he had a really good D&M with him, and the guy thanked him. That was the day before.
I was just looking for a wave just to catch in so that I could go and have a coffee with them. I remember being on the board on my last wave. That's my last memory.
I'd finished my surf session and I was paddling in, and not sure whether Tom went just before me or after me, but when I was getting close to the shore, I looked over and I saw that Tom was doing something a little bit different. Instead of paddling in like this, Tom was doing this sort of butterfly thing. Like, I don't know what it was, but next time I looked over, Tom was off his board and he was floating face down. And I knew I had to act quickly then. So then I got into shore, and that's when I called for people setting up here to ring for an ambulance, come and help me. I felt a hand on my shoulder that day, I really did.
When I walked over the edge where I'd been sitting on the rail there, he was starting to get some attention on the sand there from Massa and Jeff, and there was a couple other people loitering around as well, but you know, that's when I realised it was Tom and he was in a bad place.
That's when the first aid assistant started then, trying to, Tom was having trouble breathing right then. Yeah. So I sent for, a chap came up and asked can I help, and I sent him down to get the lifeguard for the defib and the oxygen.
After 40 years of lifesaving, I've seen a lot of drownings, and even though it was Tom, it's sort of you do the assessments first. So, and my first analysis was he's not in a good way, but it didn't look like a drowning. It was different, so that's when I knew it was something like a heart attack or something problem there. His body was completely lifeless. To see the biggest lifeguard that was there, he's about 90 kilos, doing compressions on him, and he was impacting him pretty hard, and there was no response to that whatsoever. The eyes were dilated, they were open, the body was lifeless. We knew there was a lot of trouble there. So trying to get everything working correctly was paramount.
Some small wave coming and I just catch and they just go back to shore and throw my surfboard and they just try to get, what's happening? I'm not. Some like great power, something I can't control, you know. Twice I've been told back off, but still I have to go and check. And some big power just pushing me. And I finally reach from his back and I check his pulse straight away on the right side and counted downly, check. And the doctor was sitting there. I believe he's doctor. I grabbed his hand and tried to take attention from him. And you said doctors, I'm nurse as well. Can you find his pulse? I asked him, and he said, maybe he checked again. Oh, he doesn't have pulse anymore.
All I did was I got down beside Tom. The only thing I felt like I could do was I grabbed Tom's left hand and I just started yelling out his name and telling Tom, you know, come on, Tom. I just talking to him, was hoping. I knew he wouldn't be able to hear me, he was out. But I just kept yelling his name, hoping that there'd be a response.
I think that makes a difference too, because we had the lifeguards there working on him. They've been working quite a bit, and you start to have a little bit of self-doubt. You can sneak in, and with Pete yelling out, come on, Tom, and myself, I started to chime in as well. Sort of got everyone, keep going.
Yeah,
keep going.
As a matter of fact, I remember yelling at the lifeguards while they were doing the compressions and stuff, keep going, lads, and they did awesome, and it was like watching a really well orchestrated, you know, emergency room team doing it.
That day I was thinking, if defib not arrive, I was not sure I can bring you back seriously.
The pad's finally stuck on there, the machine analysed it, talks them through it, you know, and it was a shock required. I had to let go of Tom's hand at the time, and then it's pretty confronting. I mean, I thought Hollywood, you know, you see when a body receives an AED, a defib shock, they really go up in the, you know, off the ground, and it's full on.
I think it came a bit personal. The only part that came personal for me was on the, I remember after the third shock, and the paramedics were giving that one, and they had their machines there, and they weren't getting a response. I was getting a bit frustrated, so I actually remember picking their machine out of the sand and checking it, because the sun was on it and you couldn't quite make it out, and they had the flat line there, and I'm going, hang on, this can't be right. And then all of a sudden it just did a couple of little pop-ups, not much, but that's when I said to the guys, hey, I think we've got a pulse here. And that was like a relief from Pete and I.
Yeah. That's when I started to realise he's back.
We made a 100% result from a 1% chance, isn't it? Yeah. Maybe even less 1%.
It's a miracle.
Miracle, yeah.
Next thing, I woke up and I was in ICU at Sunshine Coast University Hospital. My wife was sitting there. I said to her, where am I? And she said, you're in ICU at the hospital, and it's Saturday morning. So I'd lost a whole day. It's pretty surreal. I mean, I know that's what happened. I know that's a reality, but I don't feel it in my head, because I just have a total gap between that last wave and ICU. Everyone asks me that, like, what did you see? Did you see a light? Did you see Jesus, you know? And I was like, you know, for a few seconds I was pretty tempted. I thought, I can make up anything. Like, who's going to argue with me? But no, I didn't see anything. That doesn't change anything for me. I mean, I believed in God, I believed in Jesus. Everything I believed without seeing anything. So it doesn't change anything for me.
And I was waiting for the news. And when the photo came through with Tom doing the thumbs up, that was a good sign for me. And so I was quite happy. The outcome was a good one.
I'm always worried in those situations how they come out of it, and for Tom to come out like there was nothing wrong is a miracle.
Yeah, the photo we got the next day on the surf chat with Tom in his pink hospital clothes, giving us a thumbs up and sand all over him, that was fantastic.
So that photo seriously makes me cry. Yeah.
In that time they did an angiogram. They found out that I had 4 blocked arteries, one of them being over 90% blocked. And so I had to have a bypass. I had to have bypass surgery. And the medical people call that artery the widowmaker, because it very rarely ever gives any indication that anything is wrong. Like if you read of someone that just drops dead from a heart attack, it's usually that artery. It was only because I had people that were really good at CPR. They kept the blood going in my body, for about 6 minutes, it would seem. The defibrillator didn't work, didn't get me back the first time. I'm not sure whether it was the second or third time, but
I feel like that event actually, not I saved Tom, Tom saved me, you know. Tom saved me rather than, you know, emotionally. You know, since that day, many people know about my name, and they just, you know, coming, oh, yes, you're Masa, you know, saving Tom's life, you know, and hug me and make me feel like, you know, I'm just more like connected to the community now.
it's definitely given me a greater sense of urgency about telling people about Jesus, because it just makes you realise you can literally be gone like that, and people don't think that way. Nobody thinks that. Like, people think, oh, you know, if I get sick, well, maybe then I'll get right with God or what. You may not have that opportunity. If I wasn't right with God on that day and I'd actually died, the chance is over. The opportunity's gone. That's a pretty sobering thought. And just an appreciation of my family. You know, Debbie's been amazing through it all, and my kids and my friends. And my church. I mean, you guys were praying for me on the Friday night when the doctor had told Debbie, be prepared for brain damage. And I'm out of it. I'm blissfully unaware, but I got a whole bunch of people that are having a prayer meeting for me. I mean, that's humbling. That's amazing. That's my church family. People that don't have any kind of community, don't have any connection, I think they're the poorest people in the world. I think when you go through something like this, you are forced to face your own mortality. Like, in our brains, we all understand that we're going to die. We know we're all going to die. But there's still a part of your brain that says, it won't happen to you. Like, you know it's stupid, but it's hard to believe. But when you go through something like this, you know it's real. And I'm not afraid of death at all, but that's because I've got my faith in Jesus.